There are many ways to carry in the jungle, and that's because there are many different kinds of champions. So in this video, I want to go over the 3 different ways you can 1v9 from the jungle and become that jungle difference. But we're going to do it so that you see every kind of way, whether it's a level 1 cheese invade, whether it's just full clearing, whether it's ganking and fisting, whatever you might want to play, whatever you do play, there is a possibility for you to be the jungle div, and no matter what MMR you play. And so we will start off with the first game here. I figured we go with the level 1 Fiesta nonsense, map control jungler versus predator. Don't worry, the next game will have what happens when you overcommit a little bit, but you are doing more standard jungling things, and then the last one obviously will add in all of the missing information that the first 2 don't have. So you can see here we have a red side Bel'Veth, we're against an Ivern. Yes, Ivern is a little bit, you can't complain about things when you get invaded because that's what Ivern likes to do as well. We do have an elongated, stressful level 1. Not a fan of these things at all. Personally, I never do them, but if you are someone who likes to actually go ahead and fight like this, you can get benefits. But ultimately your question is, okay, well, this is just randomness, right? How do I carry and be jungle difference when my game plan is thrown out the window? When all of this nonsense happens, maybe I didn't even intend for it to happen. Well, in this case, the Ivern does sacrifice himself to nature. Bel'Veth loses her blue buff and now has to go after starting her wolves all the way over to the red quadrant. Here's the thing though, from Bel'Veth's perspective, you don't know if Ivern's gonna go from bottom to top or top to bottom. So all we do is we ensure we control our topside quadrant, keep that sequencing nice, go and have a look for that top scuttle. If Ivern shows up, always punish that mistake, process that information and go, okay, now I know what to do. She uses her body to burn the flash of the top laner and then goes back to base. Why? Because the Ivern is now going to be in a bit of a stressful situation. He has to try and match you in some capacity. You have advantage of having based, and you're gonna maximize your experience. By that I mean the wolves that you took have respawned, so you get to take those. You get to take your Grump and get that off the map. You get to look and maybe take the bottom scuttle if it's available. And yes, you see the Ivern ganking bottom lane, but then you do one of my most favorite moves if you're in this situation. You absolutely must head to Virkayu.gg. Not only do I have a free jungle improvement resource, I also have a dedicated program with jungle video courses, jungle coaching, coaching classes, a jungle VOD library, special weekly content you'll see nowhere else. All of this available through a premium jungle Discord, which is highly active, a huge community that help each other climb using my jungle program and courses. As we have seen by everybody hitting their peak rank goals in Split 1 and Split 2 of Season 14 as fast as possible. So to climb faster than everybody you know and to jungle div every game you play, head to Virkayu.gg or click the link in the description below. If you cannot rotate to the bottom lane scenario, your bottom lane are dead as they always are, and your real fight really isn't with, the bottom lane of the Ivern, it's with you. In this particular gameplay that we're covering, you are talking about predator junglers who need no help, who need nobody to keep them alive and allow them to actually carry games. And the Bel'Veth has done that by the following: creating maximized camp experience, making sure there is still lane impact, pushing the enemy jungler off of anything that might be contested, and then creating spacing such that she can take the respawn topside quadrant and let the game develop. Sit back, watch what the Ivern does, watch what the map gives you, and when you see them show up, you rotate over, you snack a kill, and now all the grubbies belong unto you. And that's really the goal here. If you can offset the cheese and the randomness from these kinds of beginnings, you very much will be the jungle div from your team's perspective. Because remember, jungle div is subjective. If you spam gank your bottom lane, your top laner is getting ganked by the enemy jungler, the top laner thinks, hey, my jungler sucks, Bel'Veth is ganking bottom lane, and the enemy jungler is a jungle div. It's a bit of a subjective reality. However, for this video, it's about how can your whole team recognize your greatness, and also by extension just give you an absolute boatload of LP. Now you would have seen the Bel'Veth do the scuttle to do the grub to make sure she gets the truest of true forms when she goes back to base. Here, of course, the idea is go to the bottom side, you got the respawn wolves again, you got the respawn Grump again, you got the respawn blue buff, and you have your bottom lane that are looking like they might need a little bit of assistance, both mentally and physically. Although most of the time ADCs need help using the toilet, but that's besides the point. Try your best here to gank first and then do camps if it's available. Do your camps and then gank if that's what you need to wait for. Wait for the enemy jungler to show up and counter gank them. Really, this is again about let the game develop, see what you are actually required to do. Don't force a gank if the enemy jungler's there and you can farm beforehand. Likewise, don't farm when you should be ganking. Now, sometimes you will die, the patience of the Viceroy pays off, but it's okay because you are Bel'Veth, you're 2-1-2, the gold is more useful on you than on anybody else, and this allows you an opportunity. That's always the thing you gotta think about with jungling. You wanna be the jungle difference? You wanna not a jungle at a high level? You wanna climb all the way to your ranked peak by the end of Season 14? You gotta understand this one singular principle. Whether you make a great play, a bad play, or the enemy does also a bad or a good play, the answer to the question, what opportunities arise, will be the thing that gets you through the next phase. The Bel'Veth says, well, I died, but that means topside quadrant and counter jungling is available to me. You know, it's not good I died, but because I did and I happened to be in this situation, how can I make the best of it? Well, I guess I can counter jungle and make the Ivern feel a little bit more like a twig. And here's what's very important. Do I need to take the whole top side quadrant and then fall back to my blue side quadrant into the grubs? Or is there a play available to me in the top lane perhaps? Can I gank something from this counter jungling angle? That's one of the greatest things that good junglers recognize. Yes, I'm doing this one thing, but it gives me a great angle of approach to do an even better thing. As such, top lane falls. You get to fall back to your red, go back to base, and now of course we have true form, we have itemization spike, the grubs are respawning. How can I best allow myself to create prio such that these are free? By that I mean you can't just go straight to the grubs and then complain, my laners don't rotate. Create the prio you need for the objective, or the objective is probably something you shouldn't be doing if you cannot at all. Now after you do these grubs, you see, okay look, the Pyke is ganking the top laner, it's a 2v1, I don't really feel like rotating to that, that's not good for me. You fall back to your Krugs, you let your top laner die, you wait for the play to end, you wait for the enemy support to run away, and then you go back in if the enemy top laner overstays, which of course they always do. I took the grubs and didn't show up, I guess I can push this wave. Oh no, I'm dead. Of course the Pyke did rotate back because he's a human being with functioning eyes, however, you're still way too strong in a PvP sense for anyone to do anything. And all of this was from a random start, you lost your blue buff, your sequencing was compromised, your level 5 and level 6 were delayed, and yet here we are with ease being the jungle diffy. Alright, the next phase here is very important. You got a dragon up, you've got a herald up, you suddenly look up and you go, wait a second, why does my ADC have like 1,000 deaths? What the hell is going on bot lane? Your shoes are only useful if you actually wear them when you go outside. Not the best example considering Bel'Veth doesn't really have legs, but this will be a reoccurring thing we look at in all of the games in this video. How can we then use our lead to translate it to victory in a few different ways? The Bel'Veth predatorial playstyle means, alright, control my camps, control my quadrants, yes. I don't know why I just clapped, I just did. And then you can go into the enemy jungle and always try and reposition them. A rat in a box that you have on your ship in the middle of the ocean is a rat that you know the location of. If you open the box and let the rat run around everywhere, you know people are gonna get bit, and that's never really been good in human history. So treat the enemy jungler much like a rat. If I constrain the Ivern to the top quadrant and the Herald, that allows me to take all his camps, gank and kill his bottom lane, take the objective, continue taking my quadrant, get an early level 11, no downside for me because I know where the Ivern is and I know where the Ivern is trapped. And that's the same for the enemy jungler throughout every game that you ever play. Now, you're well and truly in the mid game at this particular stage, you got 2 items, you are fed. The biggest problem I see in most MMRs here, the bad habit, is to keep farming in the wrong direction. They'll do, Raptors red Krugs when your team is sieging mid lane, trying to actually push and hit turrets. Turret damage is the biggest telltale sign of a good jungler and a Bone Void level jungler getting 45, although I will say since I told him that, the guy's winning at 90% win rate and has multiple thousand damage to turrets. There is a correlation there, I guarantee it. However, in games where you have ridiculous teammates who make clowns look like serious people, sometimes you just have to sacrifice your mid lane turret and say, right, top lane's pushing, let's just go ahead and grab a kill quickly, snag something to decompress the map, and I'll get true form as well. If you happen to be a Nocturne, a Evelynn, a Rengar, or Kha'Zix, anything like that, this same play can work. You're just looking to offset a bit of that pressure where they just opened up your mid lane. Now, usually around this moment, if you have been taking dragons or the enemy has been taking dragons, this is what I like to call the third dragon fight. It's really who's gonna win this game moment. You have, obviously, the grubs get taken twice by yourself, maybe you also get the herald, and the enemy team takes 2 dragons, that's your trade-off. However, you don't really want to get into a soul point versus Baron discussion, so you really want to be as strong as possible to fight for that third dragon. However, here there's no dragon, but the timer is about correct, and so Bel'Veth heads towards the mid lane to try and, rectify the loss of the turret, and a big old-fashioned fight ensues. The idea here is to always use your mechanics and your lead to come out ahead, to win. But if you have enemy counterparts that are way more fed than you or just able to outcomp you because your team are not the best players, sometimes you will die. However, in these situations, all I can really suggest to you is mutually assured destruction. Ensure as many people go down with you as possible such that no one really gains anything. It's really just a stalling moment. And if you're behind or you've got losing teammates, that stalling moment is good. If you're really far ahead, it's not so great, but at least from a team comp point of view, you guys don't lose an objective, you don't lose any more turrets, and really it's just a bit of a reset. This won't be what happens in some of the other games later in this video, so if you are looking for different scenarios, we'll get that covered as well. Upon respawn, the same logic applies. Should I farm my camps and let the map develop, Or is there a pick and an action I can make before I do that? Hey, there's a pick, I'll take it. And right after this pick, this is where you, a bad jungler, would compromise yourself. If you're a good jungler and you're not compromising yourself, then you can ignore the previous statement. But the pick you just made has to translate into positive map pressure. Maybe not always an objective, kill conversion ratio, that's what we want, but it is something where you've got to say, look, we got numbers advantage. I'm a power manta ray, let's go. Push into the jungle, push the side waves, try and snack a turret. If the whole enemy team chases your top laner for whatever reason, push the turrets down mid and bot. If your whole team has been collapsed upon here and you're gonna lose, cut to the mid lane, push that one, cut through their jungle, push the top wave. Whatever you do, positive map pressure forward. And then of course, when you have used positive map pressure forward in any capacity whatsoever, a term I just basically say push the map, you're gonna have that dragon fight I mentioned. Look, at the end of the day, this is how it be. You have to end up doing PvP stuff. Sure, you can be a low damage Bel'Veth that goes ahead and split pushes and win games, but sometimes your team are gonna be so far behind, you still have to make at least 1 or 2 fights where you take over. This is the same from Vi jungle to Tryndamere jungle to Ivern jungle to Nidalee jungle to Bel'Veth. We all have to have a PvP moment where our golden experience is realized in the form of killing the enemy's assholes and then taking a Baron. That is what is required most of the time to win games. Now, in order to keep this as trim as possible, we will be jumping to the next game shortly. Just for the later stages, 20 to 30 minutes and so on, remember to keep that same ideology. Should I farm now and wait for my team to respawn and then push? Are my team being a distraction and therefore should I split push? Or should I just rotate goon squad and get a whole bunch of kills in team fight? Because that's what we're good at. Sometimes what you have to do is 1 out of the 3. Sometimes it's all 3. Understanding which one is basically how you learn how to close games after the mid-game moment. Fortunately, we have 2 more games to showcase to you different aspects of this. So now we will jump into a Volibear game where this Volibear is going to get 27 kills in Challenger against a Vi and against the enemy team. However, after the first full clear that we're witnessing, this bear ends up being Winnie the Pooh. Now, how this occurs, and my jungle friends, I need you to understand this. Jungle diffing on all planes of existence is difficult, but in this meta, mid lane roams are quite powerful. Death timers going up means that when ganks are done, they are done with a lot more power, but it's not only junglers, right? It's also supports, and very much so mid laners. Prior into shove, into gank, cutting off scuttles, ruining junglers' lives, and you see this Yasuo does this. I'm seeing a lot of junglers and mid laners have these issues lately. So as always, be aware of where the mid laner is, know what fights you can and cannot take, observe prior for the scuttle, and as always, if you can't take the scuttle, go back to base, swap sides. I know it sucks sometimes, but ideally, that's just what you gotta do. But if you start raptors like the Volibaba, you can always just walk across and take the top scuttle, and if there's nothing else you can do, deport the enemy jungle, fall back to your respawn raptors at around 4 minutes, into your 4-minute 18, 4-minute 20 Krugs, reset, you can have the wolves and the grump available, and then you can look to do dragons, counter gank bot lane, do dragons, or move on up all the way and do all of that and grubs. That is how a high elo player would look more so at the map control situation here. However, we are all human and we get, well, most of us, and then we end up getting fisted and killed. But as you recall from the previous game, the best way to view this is, okay, well, that shouldn't have happened, but how can I make the best of this situation? Well, I got the respawn raptors and respawn Krugs and a top scuttle. Oh, and the Vi ends up dying to the Rel, which is kind of funny. So, we eat the chicken, we squash the crab, we smoke the stones, and then we can move on down to the wolves and the grub. The Vi here knows, okay, look, the Volibear is going to have this second clear rotation power over me. Why don't I just go do the dragon? This is a dumbass play, and I don't know why she's doing it, but because the Volibear wouldn't have known at all what the Vi is doing other than, hey, I saw her go to Grump and go down, this is really just, can I gank before she shows up if she's on her Krugs, and then can I get out of the situation? Now, we are able to snag 2 kills, as I said we could do if we got out ahead of the Vi. Problem is, the Vi was right there doing dragon. Also, the Yasuo had prior and rotated down, so we die again. However, as always, when you have a more standardized start and you have a few mistakes, again, the tempo control in this particular game is the most important thing. Keep your sequencing up, keep yourself equal or ahead in some capacity, either through gold or experience. You need that power juice. You cannot be 0-5-0. Control your mind, make the best of a shitty situation. You got 2 kills, you got 2 deaths, that's not so bad. And why I say that is because we have our topside quadrant respawning, we have the grubs available, and we're gonna be level 6. So, start the grubs, snack the grubs, ward the grubs. If the enemy jungler shows up, trust that you can beat them 1v1. If you cannot beat them 1v1, take whatever grubs you can and leave. Go back to your camps, please. Do not die for the Void McNuggets. However, if you've got a support rotating with you, you just enjoy. And now, instead of doing a blind full sequencing moment, you can see the way this game is developing. You saw with prior and roams, Vi's, actually in a decent spot. What we want to do is actually go ahead and swap over from full sequencing ideology to quadrant ideology. By that I mean, we did the grubs, we fall back to the red side, we take it. We then look, can I gank? Can I invade? Can I dive? Can I cut in for a dragon? Can I cut in for counter jungling? All of these questions before you full sequence your bottom side. And obviously, as you see, the Volleybaba sees greatness and gets himself even more kills. But if he didn't raise his eyes up and actually, looked up for those good plays, he would have full sequenced down and missed all these opportunities. And that's where the jungle diff comes in. A lot of you just don't keep your eyes up. A lot of you go blindly into the full sequencing. You don't start thinking about quadrants and then, hey, can I do something on the map? What's looking available to me? And that's very important. It's the best way to play when death timers are like this. You gotta keep people dead. And as always, when you get kills and people are dead for longer, always ask yourself better questions. What can I do while they're dead that I couldn't do if they were alive? If it's counter jungling, great. If it's a dragon, cool. Do what can be done, what must be done. And if they want to be dumb and really contest with you, just kill them again. When you're a strong fighting jungler and you're ahead like this, you really shouldn't be shying away from these skirmishes. And if you are something that is still not in the right frame to really be fighting here, just leave the dragon. If you can get it and get out, again, cool beans. Knowing your jungler in that scenario is probably the most important thing. That's why I'm speaking more generally about all of the different jungle styles you might have, because while these games showcase every way to jungle div, it will change the rules a little bit based upon what you play and what you're good at. However, despite this game going quite well, it's only 10 minutes, which means the early game isn't yet done. Now, I'm not always a fan here of full sequencing all the way down and putting yourself on the opposite side of the grubs that we want to snag again, but at the same time, the Asura has shown himself to be quite fed, and also he's roamed quite a lot. We also died twice to his rotations. So here the Volibear says, well, you know what, I'll give the Vi a few little hands that I'm 2 levels up. Let me just full sequence down. I can look at my quadrant rotation if there's anything for me to do. If there's nothing, I will finish the full clear. And then you can decide, do I just go ahead and gank bot lane and push that? Do I counter jungle if it's available? Or if they all want to fight mid lane, that's exactly what I want to do, especially as a Volibear, as anything that is this fed, honestly, you want to fight, you want to rotate, you want to say, right, that's it, everybody dies. If there are grubs available for you to snack again, please clean it up so you can at least get 4 for the mites. But jungle diffing does require one subtle difference here. It is, hey, I've killed them all. Everybody's dead for an extra 4 seconds. What can I do while they're dead that I couldn't do while they're alive? Well, push the wave, take some plates, take their camps, and then I can very easily take those 2 grubbies and once more reassess. Do I fall back to my red side quadrant? Do I just take the raptors and then rotate to a fight? Or do we just do all of those things and maybe die a little bit and say, oopsies? Now, this game is a little bit different than the Velvet one. Why? Because even though our team aren't inting as much as, say, the Kaiser was, macro-wise, we need to be a bit more everywhere. We need to be a bit more, I'm gonna need 27 kills to win this game. Everybody's fighting all the time. Fortunately, I'm really fed. So we use what I call here the swoop method. That's basically where you go side to side on the map, taking your camps as you go, but always willing to cut in for the fights as necessary, and then pushing into their jungle and always shadowing where your team wants to be, where the enemy might be, so that you can pounce. You can make the picks, you can win the fights, you can take the dragons, you can take their camps. You can be from bottom to mid to top in no time, and then you can fall back to quadrant yet again. You're seeing exactly what I mean by watching this footage, but all I really want you to think about is, look, I really kind of just want to farm and have a chill macro into the mid game, but my team, they don't want that, the enemy team doesn't want that, and at this point, you're the Thanos. This is true jungle difference, understanding that with a click of your fingers, you can actually just dominate and close games quickly. You stall out your games because you don't do what this Volibear just did. You don't maximize all of the power you have. You go farming and maybe split pushing a little bit when you could just rotate and absolutely beat everybody up. And you can see how this ideology leads to great dominating mid games. The extended sequence, you guys remember that term? Staying out longer than you normally would, even if you got a lot of gold, because you don't have to base to have impact. You are still way farther ahead than anybody else could imagine. So after all that, he did his red side quadrant, he rotated to more fights, he said, guys, can you calm down? But he doesn't just go back to base then, he says, all right, people are dead, what can I do? Get into the jungle, push the top wave, take yet another turret, do another dive, eventually counter jungle again, and then we can go back to base. It is an exhausting transition to go from a 14-minute game to a 17, 18-minute game while doing this. But it is the biggest thing possible, and the same thing from this game as the last game. Eyes up, my friends, look for the plays, don't put your head in the sand and go, well, you know, I'm a jungle differing here, I got the most gold. Don't I look great with my lovely KD, and your team are dying, wiping, and you're complaining saying, team, what did you do? Why didn't you wait for me? No, why wasn't your ass in the fight? Of course, what most junglers can bring to you, basically I think any class, although there's more risk depending on what you're playing, is alright, now we've gone back to base, now we're really far ahead. The enemy team will have Fed members that try to push their luck beyond vision line. You want to wait for that moment, you want to pounce and kill them in that moment, and then you want to do what I like to call the shove and cut. Shove the side wave that you just got from killing somebody. If someone joins you in your team, very well, go into their jungle, steal camps, and then cut in for the mid lane fight where someone else is also pushing beyond vision line. This allows so much domination in the mid game into the late game because the enemy team never has the ability to group up, set their feet, and actually hold onto scale. Creates a lopsided environment where you have your team pushing in turrets tier 2, tier 3, and the enemy are still trying to get tier 1s, and that's when you flank from behind, great angles all the time, shoving and cutting, using your power curve to actually just eradicate people. And you know how I mentioned the word lopsided right there? That's because you see the enemy top lane is trying the same thing. Well, if the Volibear is gonna kill my laners and push the other waves, I might as well try and force them to come and catch me on the top side. Fortunately, when you're this fed, that should be a pretty easy thing to do. If the enemy top laner is so fed, you cannot try and wave clear a little bit and just hold. You've created a stall for your team at the very least. However, in this case, we are able to kill the Camille. Push the wave a little bit, don't push beyond vision line. The dragon is spawning on the bottom side. And here's where we make a little bit of a mistake. Obviously here we are going to need to fight for this dragon. We're gonna need to use our body again. Now you might think, well, the Camille's inting and everybody else is basically just dying a lot and I can just control the game. That is true, but when they group up and you overstay and don't spend your gold, the gold lead you have isn't really tangible. So at some point you gotta do the Meteos from like 2014 where he's going back to base on Krugs, sees his bottom lane fighting and goes, well, they shouldn't be dying there. Oh dear, there's an enemy jungler. Doesn't cancel his base. Says, bro, I got 3k in the pocket. I need to go buy, and then we can fight. But if you're gonna fight here and die, there isn't actually anything I can do about it. At some point, you might have to acknowledge this. Now, the Volibear is pretty damn strong, pretty damn good, and obviously gets something, but the fact of the matter is you still die, you still give shutdowns, and then you gotta trust your team. So in this particular case, the trusting of the team and our death were good deaths. So I'm talking a bit dramatic there, but I have seen a lot of scenarios in this exact kind of way where you die, your team dies before you or just after you, and now maybe you lose a Baron, you definitely lose a Dragon. So I want you to balance your risk assessment here. It's great that the Volibear moved on over, they had a great fight, he died for the cause, and his team were elo to clean up and then shove an inhib. That's great. In this particular case, it's fine. And that's the twist here. You didn't think I was gonna say that, but in this case, it's fine because we understood those things. However, in your lower elo games, in your diamond games, emerald games, bronze games, your teams won't always be this efficient and they might all wipe. So balance the decision of, do I have itemization where I should base and then contest the fight and the dragon, or should I rotate to the scenario right now? Can we actually win it? I cannot answer that for you in every game, only you can. You gotta know your champion, know your team comp, and this will come and get better with experience. Obviously in these high elo games, there's a little more trust, most of the time anyway. But as with the other game, you see the pick will lead to a Baron, which will lead to more picks, a lot more kills, boom, 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 27 kills, all match histories will be linked in the description, so you can actually go ahead and confirm that these games did in fact happen. They did, I'm not lying to you, they're all high elo. Well, on that note, let's jump to this Lee Sin and Diana game. What the hell happens if you need to be a little bit more proactive and things just kind of go your way? How do you keep up the pressure so that the enemy jungler can't actually recover? Because we saw the Bel'Veth deal with the randomness, we saw the Volibear deal with a few deaths and come back very, very easily. How is Lee Sin, can you prevent that happening? How can you prevent the Diana from just farming and scaling? Well, first and foremost, we full clear down. Diana recognizes, yo, I cannot get that Scuttle Crab, so cuts to the top side, as I said, and does that. From the Lee Sin's perspective, because she didn't go to the top Scuttle Crab just through good tracking and application of jungling principles, you actually see her, which means you can extrapolate, always very important in these games, extrapolate where are they gonna go next. And now, yes, maybe you can just damn well gank bottom lane, that's great, but you're gonna give the Diana free real estate top side on the top lane gank and the top scuttle. Don't like that. Cut her off. Now go jungle vs jungle. If you want to take control of games, it's always the jungle vs jungle fighting match that you gotta think about. Get in her face, you're forced a 2v2 that you know damn well she doesn't want to do, and honestly, she should just leave. Let your top laner or mid laner die in these 2v2s that you don't win, control your own experience, do exactly what the Bel'Veth and the Volibear did. Show a little bit of restraint in these moments until such time that you don't have to. But if you are the Lee Sin or whatever champion in this case, you gotta be mechanically good enough on your champion and you gotta know the matchups. So if you know, hey, we can win this 2v2, I can win any 2v2 because I'm a god, then please, go ahead, be god. If you're more like a duck that has his legs in the place of his wings, perhaps this isn't the fight you want to take and you can just gank the bottom lane and ensure you reset and control your full sequencing. But of course, this particular game here is about control. Now, a couple things I don't like about what the Lee Sin does here is we do have the second sequence domination. We have itemization, we have the kills. The Diana's gonna be sequencing in the same direction. So instead of doing the Krugs and then say counter ganking through the lane, I love this play by the way, If you can do what exactly the Lee Sin did, get a couple kills early, base, do your second full sequence, and you know the enemy jungler's pathing to the same side, they're going to assume you're going to do the dragon, you're going to do the grubs. What if you just say, look, intuition, extrapolation, I know you're going to gank my pushed up bottom lane, slide into the lane bush, counter gank them, get a triple kill. You saw the cutaway there from one of my Zyra games. What I don't like is actually cutting in for the dragon knowing Diana's right there, even if you might have to give it up or force a fight. It feels a lot like a bit of an unnecessary play where we're forcing something, and even though that's great, if I'm the Diana here, I'm just saying, well, if you want to do the dragon and cut out your Krugs, I'm going straight for the grubs and I'm taking those, getting level 6, killing top lane if I can, and if you commit to the dragon and killing my bot lane, I'm taking those third spawn camps on the top side. That's what she should be doing. However, because the Diana then reveals herself to the Lee Sin knows what's going on. Yes, we can do our Krugs, but once again, the Diana gave a story. Hey, I'm here, I'm going up to the grubs. If you want to control games, jungle denial, jungle boxing match. Run over, kill her, take the grubs. It's that simple. Why give it for free? There's no reason to. I'm in control here. Both times the Diana lacked nuance in her tracking. Both times the Diana just basically revealed her story and invited the Lee Sin to take her out and take all of the stuff she actually wanted. And the Bel'Veth and the Volibear were able to very easily navigate this stuff by not forcing those things, and they had the benefit of being paid off later. The Diana makes these mistakes, and the Lee Sin says, no. Now, of course, one of my absolute favorite things of all time is getting level 6 on the grubs, either through sequencing or these fightings, it doesn't really matter, and then saying, well, because I know you started topside now, I'm going to invade you, not let you get your red for free, and kill you again. Obviously, pay attention to top lane and mid lane and try not to die. You do see in high elo these limit tests, and obviously the lane is rotating a bit more so. But it's the aggressive play. Yes, I have the lead, I control you, you get nothing for free. However, if you take this stuff on the top side and you do all the goodness, where's he going next? Well, to the bottom side. And at this point, all you have to do is not give her free counter jungling. So yes, he takes his top side, but then he uses his strength at this point just to cut across and say, look, I'm doing the dragon. And the Diana's like, well, I guess I have to go to the top side now. And the Lee Sin can basically say, look, I'm either going to follow you again and kill you after the dragon, or I'll trust my laners to do that while I do my bottom side camps. You pick your poison, it's absolutely okay, just do not allow yourself to be counter jungled. Although you could in theory use the rat in the box analogy, especially if your laners aren't going to rotate and say, yo, Diana, take my blue side, I'll take yours, kill your bot lane and snowball that. That is also absolutely okay as long as you're back in time for the grubs. And as you can see, the Diana does a little bit of brainless behavior, tilted behavior, because the Lee Sin read her story that she gave away for free, and she dies again. Now obviously in these particular games, this is where the focus is, right? On these first 9, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, maintaining this control, tracking, cutoff, nothing for free, and just ensuring that you also keep up your own farm. Your sequencing, your quadrants, because you have a lead that they can never overcome unless you do something dumb. You know, it's like having a 20-point lead in the NBA in the first half. As long as you keep that at 20, you win. Even if they scored the same amount of points as you in the second half, it doesn't matter. Likewise in any sport, really. So it's the same for League here. As long as you keep your lead, your 2-level lead, your 3k gold lead, they're going to be in a deficit. Now, where League is different is some champions get better with gold, and that 3k gold lead will actually shrink just as a byproduct of their stats. Think KOs and things like that. Which means you do have to maintain a certain amount of pressure to actually close the game out, but for the mid game of this one, it wasn't really that nuanced. It very much was the Bel'Veth principles and the Volibear principles. All of these methods: get in their jungle, get in their face, force the fights, push the turrets, get the dragons, get the heralds. You're not playing around. Your sequence is a baseline, but if you can go ahead and do other things after you kill somebody, please do. Don't kill and go farm in the mid game with this lead. Push, push, kill, push. Force an FF, get the jungle diff in your chat, make the streamers rage and blame everything other than themselves and perhaps the fact that they had a bad game and aren't jungling very well at the moment. Make the enemy laners cry your name at night when they just want you to be on their team. These are the 3 different kinds of ways you can jungle diff in this meta. I hope all these principles help you. If you're someone that is maybe struggling to actually get these leads and you always find yourself behind, click this video to learn the steps on how to recover no matter what champion you play.